In a distant galaxy, there lay a planet called Zorith. It was a beautiful planet with shimmering blue seas and towering green mountains. The Zorathians, who were tall and graceful beings, thrived under a sky filled with bright stars. They were explorers at heart, always yearning to uncover the secrets of the universe. However, one day, they made a grave mistake. In their quest for knowledge, the Zorathians decided to study a strange star that flickered in the distance. Its light danced like fireflies in the night sky, catching the attention of young Davin and his sister Nayla. They were curious and adventurous, eager to learn about everything. They wished to be the first to explore this unknown star. Davin and Nayla convinced their parents to let them join the expedition team. The team was made up of the best Zorathian scientists and pilots. After long preparations, they set off on their sleek spaceship, the Star Voyager. They laughed and cheered as they soared through the galaxy, excitement filling their hearts. As they approached the star, the warmth became intense. It looked peaceful at first, but things began to change. Suddenly, a loud roar filled the ship as a blinding light engulfed them. The Star Voyager shook violently. Davin held on to his sister, fear creeping into his heart. In a moment of chaos, the ship was cast out of their course. The ship flew through space, spiraling out of control. When the blinding light faded away, the Zorathian team found themselves crash-landed on a strange planet. It was Earth. The ground was solid and hard, and the sky looked different from the one they always knew. The Zorathians slowly stepped outside, shaken but alive. They looked at one another, worry filling their eyes. They were far from home, lost among the stars. Davin and Nayla felt scared, but they quickly realized they needed to find help. After gathering their supplies from the ship, they set off into the nearby forest. The trees were enormous, unlike anything they had ever seen. The sounds of Earth were strange, filled with chirping birds and rustling leaves. They walked deeper into the heart of the forest. Suddenly, they heard a rustle in the bushes. Davin and Nayla froze, fear gripping their hearts. From the shadows stepped a young girl named Mia. She had bright eyes and wild hair. She looked curious rather than afraid. "Who are you? Are you aliens?" she asked with a grin. Davin and Nayla exchanged glances, relieved to see someone friendly. "Yes, we are from Zorith," Nayla explained. "We crashed here. We need help." Mia's eyes widened with excitement. "Aliens? This is amazing. My family will want to meet you." She grabbed their hands and led them back toward her home, which was a small house on the edge of the forest. When they arrived, Mia introduced them to her family. Her parents were surprised but welcoming. They listened as the Zorathians shared their story, how they were searching for knowledge and how they crash-landed. Mia's parents promised to help them. They offered food and shelter, and soon the Zorathians felt a little safer. Days turned into weeks as they stayed with Mia and her family. They learned about Earth and its people. Davin and Nayla were amazed by the many differences, but also the similarities. They shared stories of their explorations, and Mia's family shared tales of Earth's history. While they were becoming closer, Davin always thought about getting back home. He was worried, but he kept his hopes high. One day, while exploring with Mia, they found something shiny in the forest. It was a piece of metal, unlike any they had seen before. "Maybe it's part of your ship," Mia suggested. They decided to take it back to the house. Nayla, who had a talent for mechanics, examined it closely. After several days of tinkering, she realized it was indeed a part of their ship. "If we can find more materials, we might be able to fix the Star Voyager," she exclaimed. Mia's parents decided to help them. They contacted local engineers and shared stories of Zorith. The town was fascinated by the idea of helping aliens return to their home. The engineers worked together with Nayla to gather scrap materials for the repairs. As the days passed, they became a community bound by friendship. Finally, the day came when the Star Voyager was ready for testing. Davin, Nayla, and Mia stood by the ship, anxious and excited. The townspeople gathered to witness this strange sight. With the engines roaring to life, Davin took a deep breath, feeling a mix of emotions. "Thank you, everyone," he said, looking at the faces that had supported them. "You gave us shelter when we were lost." As the ship lifted into the sky, they felt the warm glow of the sun on their skin. They waved goodbye to their new friends. Mia, her family, and an entire town stood below, cheering them on. The star Voyager soared higher and higher, carrying the dreams of Zarathians back to the stars. Weeks later, as they entered the familiar warmth of their galaxy, Davin and Nayla looked at each other with joy. They learned that curiosity could lead to unexpected adventures and friendships. They knew Earth would always hold a special place in their hearts, a place of kindness among the stars. Back on Zorth, they shared their adventures, teaching others the importance of friendship and how even when cast out by the stars, they could find home in unexpected places. The Zarathians looked up at the night sky, remembering the shining faces of Earth's people, forever grateful for the shelter they found among the stars. Genre: sci-fi. The year is 2342. Earth, once a beacon of technological advancement and environmental harmony, had become a sanctuary for the lost and the weary. Among those seeking refuge were the Lemnians, a species from the Xylos galaxy, cast out from their home by a cosmic event they called the Great Dimming. Their story began with a distress signal, faint and fragmented, intercepted by a deep space listening post in Greenland. Dr. Eris Thorne, a brilliant but eccentric astrophysicist, recognized the anomaly, the signal pulse with a mathematical complexity that hinted at a civilization far beyond human comprehension. "It's like they're speaking in starlight," Eris had exclaimed, hunched over his console, his eyes gleaming with excitement. "We have to answer." The Lemnians, when they finally arrived, were beings of pure light. They existed as shimmering, iridescent forms, their bodies like living nebulae. Their leader, a luminous being who translated her name to Lyra, explained their plight. "Our stars have abandoned us." Lyra's voice echoed in the translation, a melodious tone that resonated deep within the soul. "The Great Dimming has extinguished the celestial fires that sustained us. We are adrift, fading." Earth, represented by the United Global Council UGC, faced a dilemma. Accepting the Lemnians meant sharing resources already stretched thin by climate change and overpopulation. Yet, the humanitarian call was undeniable. After weeks of debate, spearheaded by the empathetic Secretary General Anya Sharma, the UGC voted to offer sanctuary. Designated zones across the less populated regions of Earth were prepared. These luminosities were shielded environments designed to mimic the energy fields the Lemnians needed to survive. The first luminosity was established in the Australian outback, a vast expanse of desert now glowing with the soft, ethereal light of the newcomers. Among the humans tasked with integrating the Lemnians into Earth society was Ilara Reynolds, a young biologist with a passion for the unknown. Ilara, with her bright eyes and infectious enthusiasm, became Lyra's primary contact. They spent hours communicating, sharing knowledge, and bridging the gap between two vastly different cultures. "It's fascinating," Ilara told Eris one evening, sitting in his cluttered lab surrounded by star charts and alien artifacts. "Their biology is based on light, not carbon. They perceive the universe in ways we can only dream of." Eris, in turn, was captivated by the Lemnians' understanding of astrophysics. They possessed knowledge of cosmic phenomena that dwarf human understanding, including the nature of the Great Dimming. "They believe it's a cyclical event," Eris explained, his voice hushed with awe. "A cosmic ebb and flow where stars die and are reborn. But this time, the dimming is more severe, more prolonged." As the Lemnians settled on Earth, their presence began to have unexpected effects. The luminosities became centers of innovation and healing. The Lemnians, with their ability to manipulate light and energy, developed technologies that purified water, generated clean energy, and even healed diseases. One such innovation was the Lumine Weave, a fabric woven from captured starlight. It could adapt to any environment, regulate body temperature, and even enhance physical abilities. It became a symbol of human-Lemnian cooperation, a testament to what could be achieved when two cultures united. However, not everyone welcomed the Lemnians. A growing faction, known as the Earth First Movement, believed that the aliens were a drain on resources and a threat to human sovereignty. Their leader, a charismatic but ruthless politician named Marcus Thorne, no relation to Eris, fueled fear and xenophobia. "They are not like us," Marcus declared at rallies, his voice booming across the crowds. "They are beings of light, We are beings of flesh and blood. They will consume our resources, steal our jobs, and ultimately destroy our way of life. Tensions escalated, culminating in a violent protest outside the Australian luminosity. Earth First members, armed with energy weapons, attacked the perimeter, breaching the shield and exposing the Lemnians to the harsh sunlight, which was toxic to them. Illyra, who was inside the luminosity at the time, witnessed the carnage. She saw Lemnians fading, their light flickering and dying. Lyra, despite her weakened state, rallied her people, using her remaining energy to shield the others. "We must protect them," Lyra said to Illyra, her voice strained. "They are our hope, and we are theirs." Illyra, fueled by adrenaline and a fierce determination, raced to the control panel and activated the emergency shields, sealing the breach. But the damage was done. Many Lemnians were injured, and some had perished. The attack was a turning point. Anya Sharma, horrified by the violence, condemned the Earth First movement and vowed to protect the Lemnians. Eris, devastated by the attack and his brother's involvement, threw himself into his research, determined to find a way to reverse the great dimming and restore the Lemnians to their home. Working with Lyra, Eris discovered a hidden frequency within the dimming signal. It was a distress call from the dying stars, a plea for help. Eris theorized that if they could amplify that frequency, they could reignite the stars and reverse the dimming. But the technology needed to do so was beyond human capabilities. They needed the combined knowledge and energy of both humans and Lemnians. It was a long shot, a desperate gamble, but it was their only hope. Together, Eris, Illyra, and Lyra designed a massive energy amplifier, powered by Earth's geothermal energy and the Lemnians' collective life force. It was a risky endeavor, one that could drain the Lemnians completely and even destabilize Earth's energy grid. On the night of the launch, the world held its breath. The amplifier, a towering structure of metal and light, hummed with power. Lyra, her form barely visible, stood at the heart of the machine, channeling her energy into the device. "For Xylos," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "For Earth. For hope." With a deafening roar, the amplifier unleashed a beam of pure energy into the night sky, aimed at the heart of the Xylos galaxy. The beam pulsed with the combined energy of two worlds, a beacon of hope in the face of cosmic darkness. For days they waited, watching the skies, praying for a sign. Then, one morning, a faint light appeared in the east, a glimmer of hope in the vast darkness. The stars of Xylos were beginning to reignite. The great dimming was reversing. The Lemnians, weakened but triumphant, began their preparations to return home. They left behind their technologies, their knowledge, and their gratitude. They had been cast out by the stars, but Earth had given them shelter, and in return, they had given Earth hope, a glimpse of future where two worlds could unite and face the darkness together. As Lyra prepared to depart, she turned to Illyra, her light shining brighter than it had in years. "We will never forget you, Illyra," she said. "You showed us the true meaning of compassion. You are a star in your own right." With a final farewell, the Lemnians ascended into the sky, their shimmering forms disappearing into newly lit stars of Xylos. Earth was left behind, forever changed by their presence. Title: Shelter Among Stars. In the year 2473, the galaxy was a swirl of colors and conflict. Amidst the chaos, a small spaceship rocked through the void, its hull battered and worn. This ship held the last hope of the Dronai, a race once proud and powerful in the star system of Xylanthia. Now, they were refugees, cast out by their own people and pursued by enemies who wanted to see them wiped from existence. The captain of the ship was a young Dronai named Kalen, with shimmering blue skin and sharp features. He looked every bit the noble warrior, but as he piloted his damaged vessel, his heart weighed heavy with the loss of his home. Alongside him was Maris, his sister and the ship's engineer. Her bright green eyes and quick wit often helped him find solutions even in dark times. Lastly, they had an earthling named Jake. He had joined them after his crew was killed during a skirmish, and despite being from a different world, he had become an essential member of their team. "The scanners are still picking up signals from the Xylanthi fleet," Kalen said, his voice low and focused. Maris frowned as she adjusted dials, on the control panel. We're only a week away from the edge of the solar nebula. If we can reach the nebula, the star storms will disrupt their tracking systems. Jake looked uneasy, but the nebula is unpredictable. It could damage the ship even more. Are you sure it's worth it? We have no choice, Kalen replied. Every second we waste brings them closer. As they continued their flight, the ship shuddered. Alarms blared and lights flickered. Maris pressed buttons furiously, trying to keep the ship stable. We've lost power to the left thruster. I can't keep us steady. Kalen gripped the controls tightly, breathing deeply. Jake, help her. We need to restore power before we lose control. Jake leaped into action, rushing to the back of the ship where Maris worked. He had never been trained in Dronai technology, but he was determined to help. Together, he and Maris struggled to reroute energy flows while the ship jerked with sudden movements. Outside, dark clouds of the solar nebula loomed. They could see the sparkles of stars peeking through, but knew the chaos of space weather waited beyond. On the ship, tensions rose with every moment they fought to regain control. Finally, with a loud clank and a humming sound, the thruster roared back to life. We're back in business, Maris shouted, relief flooding her voice, running the calculations in his mind. Kalen prepared for the jump into the nebula. Hold on tight. Here we go. They shot forward, gaining speed. The stars blurred into streaks of light as they entered the nebula. Inside, colors collided in vibrant displays, creating a breathtaking spectacle. However, the beauty was short-lived as violent winds and cosmic storms engulfed them. The ship was tossed left and right. The controls slipped from Kalen's grip, and alarms echoed throughout the cramped space. We're losing stability, he yelled, panic creeping into his voice. Everyone braced for impact. Maris called back as she secured herself in her seat. With a deafening crash, the ship spiraled into a turbulent storm and was caught in a whirlpool of cosmic energy. Kalen struggled to keep the ship intact, his mind racing. They were trapped, surrounded by a frenzy of stars, gas, and electricity. But suddenly, the storm began to calm. Light seeped through the darkness, and they found themselves in a pocket of stillness. Where are we? Jake gasped, looking around. Kalen turned off the alarms and took a look at the readings. Somehow, we've been pulled into a hidden sanctuary within the nebula. Maris' eyes widened. Look at the readings. There's a planet nearby. It's habitable. The realization struck like a starburst. They were safe, at least for now. With their energy reserves low, they needed to explore this new world. Kalen smiled for the first time in days. Let's land and see what it has to offer. The planet's surface was lush and green, filled with towering trees and vibrant flowers. The air was fresh and rich with the scent of nature. It seemed like a dream after the darkness of space. Landing the ship gently, they stepped out cautiously. I can't believe it, Jake said, his eyes scanning the horizon. This place is incredible. As they walked, they noticed strange creatures watching them from the shadows. Small, furry beings with bright eyes appeared from behind the trees. They looked curious, but harmless. Maris knelt down to get a closer look. I think they're friendly. Kalen nodded. We should try to communicate. Just then, the creatures moved closer, sniffing the air. To everyone's surprise, one of them reached out a paw and touched Kalen's hand. An electric sensation coursed through him, and for a moment, he felt connected to the creature. Suddenly, images flashed through Kalen's mind, an ancient civilization, long gone but leaving behind vast knowledge. He gasped as he realized the beings were trying to convey to him the history of their planet. They need our help, he said, turning to his friends. This planet is also in danger from the Xylanthi. If we can work together, we can protect this place. In the days that followed, Kalen, Maris, Jake, and their new friends on the planet worked tirelessly to devise a plan. Using their ship's technology, they set up defenses and shared knowledge. The Dronai taught the creatures about energy shields, while the creatures showed them how to harness the planet's natural resources. As the Xylanthi fleet drew closer, the team felt a renewed surge of strength and purpose. The bond between the Dronai and the planet's inhabitants grew deeper with each passing day. Finally, the day of confrontation arrived. When the Xylanthi ships entered the atmosphere, they were met with unexpected resistance. Energy shields glimmered, and projectiles made of natural materials flew through the air. The creatures moved gracefully, working alongside Kayla, Maris, and Jake to fight against their enemies. In a climactic battle, the teamwork between both groups proved powerful. Together, they stood against the Xylanthi forces, turning back the tide of attack. When the dust settled, the Dronai had won more than just a battle. They found a new home among the stars, one that had given them shelter when they were cast out. Kalen looked at his sister and Jake, both breathing heavily but smiling. "We did it!" As they celebrated their victory, the creatures danced around them in joy. Kalen turned his gaze toward the stars, knowing they had not only saved themselves but also gained a community and a future. In the vastness of space, they had found a new family on a faraway world, and that was worth fighting for. Characters: Asterisk Anya, a young, curious astrophysicist working at a remote observatory. Asterisk Jax, the stoic, enigmatic leader of the alien refugees. Asterisk Dr. Alara Vance, a seasoned xenolinguist tasked with deciphering the aliens' language. Asterisk Commander Marcus, a high-ranking military officer responsible for the security of the alien arrival site. Here is your story. The stars had always been Anya's friends. As a child, she would lie on the roof of her family home, tracing constellations with her finger, dreaming of worlds beyond our own. Now, as an astrophysicist at the Black Ridge Observatory, she spent her nights listening to the whispers of the cosmos, searching for answers to questions humanity hadn't even learned to ask. One night, the stars screamed. It wasn't a literal scream, of course, but a cacophony of signals, unlike anything Anya had ever encountered. Patterns emerged from the noise, complex and rhythmic, like a language spoken in light. The signals pulsed from a point beyond the Kepler 186 F system, a region previously silent, a cosmic void. Anya worked feverishly, isolating the signals, running them through every algorithm she knew. The data was overwhelming, yet a chilling narrative began to form. These weren't signals of greeting or exploration. They were cries of desperation, a plea for help. Days turned into weeks, and the signals grew stronger, closer. Anya shared her findings with her superiors, bracing for disbelief, but the evidence was undeniable. Something was hurtling towards Earth, something intelligent, and it was running for its life. The world held its breath. Governments mobilized, militaries prepared, and scientists scrambled to understand what was coming. Anya was assigned to a special team, led by the renowned xenolinguist Dr. Alara Vance. Their task was simple: communicate with the arriving species and determine their intentions. When the ship arrived, it wasn't a sleek, metallic vessel of science fiction. It was a mangled wreck, scarred and battered, limping to the atmosphere like a wounded animal. It crashed in the Nevada desert, a desolate expanse now swarming with soldiers and scientists. Anya stood behind the barricades, her heart pounding as the ramp of the ship hissed open. The beings that emerged were unlike anything she had imagined. They were tall and slender, with skin like polished obsidian and eyes that shimmered with inner light. They moved with a grace that defied their apparent fragility, but their faces were etched with exhaustion and sorrow. One of them stepped forward, and Anya felt a jolt, an unbidden sense of connection. He was older than the others, his movements slower, but his eyes held a profound wisdom. This, she knew, was their leader. His name, Dr. Vance's painstaking translation revealed, was Jax. Communication was slow, frustrating. The aliens, who called themselves the KRYL, possessed a language that was both complex and deeply intuitive. Dr. Vance and her team worked tirelessly, deciphering their history, their plight. The KRYL were a nomadic species, wanderers of the cosmos, their lives intertwined with the stars. They possessed a unique ability to harness stellar energy, using it to power their technology and sustain their civilization. But their gift had become their curse. Anya listened, her mind reeling, as Jax recounted their story. A cosmic entity, a being of pure darkness, had emerged from the void, drawn by the KRL's connection to the stars. It was a parasite, feeding on stellar energy, extinguishing suns, and leaving behind only cold, empty space. The KRYL had fought back, using their powers to defend their homes. But the entity was too strong. World after world fell, consumed by darkness. The KRYL were cast out, hunted, their civilization shattered. They fled, desperately searching for a refuge, a place where they could hide from the entity's insatiable hunger. They chose Earth, a small, insignificant planet, far from the galactic core, its sun a tiny spark in the vast darkness. They believed they could hide here, amongst the noise and chaos of humanity. Commander Marcus, the military officer in charge of the site, was skeptical. He saw the KRYL as a threat, an unknown quantity that could pose a danger to Earth. He argued for containment, for strict control over their movements and their technology. Anya disagreed. She saw the fear in their eyes, the desperation in their plea. They weren't invaders. They were refugees, seeking shelter from a cosmic storm. She believed that humanity had a responsibility to help them, to offer them sanctuary. The debate raged, dividing the scientific community and the government. The world watched uncertain, as the fate of the KRYL hung in the balance. Anya knew she had to do something, to convince Commander Marcus, to show him the truth. She approached Jax, seeking his help. She asked him to share his knowledge, to show humanity the wonders of the universe, the beauty of the stars. She believed that if people could see what the KRYL had lost, they would understand the importance of protecting them. Jax hesitated. He had seen the darkness in the universe, the cruelty of fate. He was wary of humanity, of their capacity for both great kindness and terrible destruction. But he saw the sincerity in Anya's eyes, the genuine desire to help. Together, they created a demonstration, a display of the KRYL's ability to manipulate stellar energy. They projected images of distant galaxies onto the night sky, weaving patterns of light and color that left onlookers breathless. They showed the beauty of the cosmos, the delicate balance of the universe. Commander Marcus watched, his face unreadable. Anya held her breath, waiting for his reaction. Finally he spoke. "It's extraordinary," he said, his voice barely a whisper. "I never imagined." Anya knew she had reached him. He still had concerns, questions about security and control, but he was no longer driven by fear. He saw the KRYL as more than just aliens. He saw them as fellow beings, deserving of compassion and respect. The decision was made. The KRYL would be granted asylum on Earth. They would be given a protected zone, a place to rebuild their lives, to heal from their wounds. Humanity would learn from them, sharing knowledge and technology, forging a new alliance in the face of the unknown. It wouldn't be easy. There would be challenges, conflicts, and misunderstandings. But Anya believed that humanity was up to the task. They had been given a second chance, an opportunity to learn from the mistakes of others, to build a better future for themselves and for the KRYL. As Anya looked up at the stars, she no longer heard screams. She heard whispers of hope, of resilience, of a new beginning. The stars had cast out the KRYL, but Earth had given them shelter, and in doing so, humanity had perhaps saved itself. The little planet that could had offered safety to the refugees of the stars, an alliance neither could have foreseen. As they began to share technology and information, would this alliance stand the test of time? Or would humanity become as the entity that chased them from their home? Only time would tell.